Yeah, it was really a good win. Feel very pleased for our players. I thought that they responded in a manner that was critical to respond in that manner, in that they needed to play very fast, which they did, and they needed to play for 4 quarters, and they needed to be very physical. And typically we've struggled, there over the years at times, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't do some of the things that kind of haunted us in the past. We did lose the field position battle. We did lose the turnover battle again. And we did lose the penalty battle. But, we won enough things that significantly caused us to have a good shot at getting it done. And to the credit of our players, they did just that. Really pleased to see Terrell win the MAC East Defensive Player of the Week award. He's really having a great season. He's really a guy that goes all out all the time. I think he's a good leader on the field, and in that manner, I think players can take after him in terms of the speed and quickness that he plays with and the relentlessness that he plays with. Now we have other guys on our team that are playing that way, and in fact, we have a team full of guys that are playing that way. So, but obviously he's had a great career here up to this point, and is having a great season.
Questions?
Coach, where are we at with the quarterback situation? Quentin obviously started last game, but is Greg going to be worked in there too next game, or is that going to be something you're going to look at going forward?
We'll continue to discuss and look at the quarterback situation. And I don't see that there'll be a difference in the starting quarterback this week. Obviously, both need to practice well, and that could have an influence on it. I'm not saying that's going to be the deciding factor. Quentin did start last week. He played well. There's things he could have done better. We want to see him continuing to improve and to do better. Greg, we want to see him continue to also improve in a manner that's going to allow him to play at his highest level, because when he's playing at his highest level, he's really, really good.
And with the current situation going on at quarterback, how good is it to have both running backs, go off like that in one game, with Malik with 80 and a touchdown, and then Dorian with 112 and a touchdown?
Yeah, the running back situation has been a little unique in terms of guys coming and going with their health. But it seems like regardless of who's been called on, they have really stepped up and shown that they can handle that position really, really well. And so I don't think it'll be any different. We've gone through now 8 games without a break, no bye. We'll, obviously play our 9th game without a bye. We'll play our 10th game without a bye, and then finally, a bye will take place, a short bye, 10-day, not a 14-day. And so, I'm amazed at how our football team has responded to that. How well they've practiced straight without a break. How well they played physically without a break. So. They have a motto of no limits, and, the group does not set any limits on themselves.
Also, how are you looking to continue to improve on the offensive end? Because you scored 2 quick touchdowns on the ground in the first half against Kent, but you didn't score in the second half. Mm-hmm. How are you looking to improve on that side of the ball?
Well, we'd like to put weak defensive teams on the field the second half, but we're unable to do that. The teams that we're playing, in all honesty, have been really good defensive football teams in the MAC, and that'll continue to be the case. Toledo is obviously an outstanding football team on both sides of the ball, so there's no break there in that regard. Do we want to score more points? Do we need to score more points? Yeah, the answer is yes. We're looking at ways to try to do that. At times we show flashes of being what we want to be offensively, but it's we haven't put it together yet in terms of a whole offense. I was really pleased at the way we ran the ball at the end of the game, especially. 3 minutes and I don't know what it was, 56 seconds maybe left to go on the clock, and they needed the ball back. And obviously we handed the ball to Dorian, and it was 10 yards, 11 yards, 4 yards, 11 yards, and we were able to get the first downs that we needed to keep the ball in our possession and not allow them a last-minute drive. So we've shown those kind of flashes. We've shown that we can throw the deep ball, but yet, we still have not put it completely together where it's a game that's showing it on the scoreboard. And so obviously no one wants to do that any more than we do, and so we'll continue to look at ways and game plan and trying to make sure that personnel-wise we're taking advantage of the personnel that we have on the field.
Coach, you mentioned the short week. How is this week going to be different in practice? What is it going to look like that's different from your schedule the past, I guess, 2 months or so?
Well, obviously with it being 2 days shorter in terms of preparation time, today will be more of a Tuesday-type practice than a Monday-type practice. We are not going in pads, however, where traditionally we've been going in pads on Tuesday, and we'll take that day by day. We may not go in pads this week, or we may go 1 day of half pads. But we're trying to move it up a little bit in terms of practice days and making this a Tuesday, but cutting about 15 minutes off so that, at this point in time in the year, I think the worst thing you can do is just continue to beat them up and continue to practice them long and hard and drive them. This is a driven group in itself. We don't need to get them to the point where the game's tough on them, and they've responded every week. So I think that'll continue to be the case. We just need to have energy in our tank.
Do you adjust this week? Obviously, you don't have as much time, but is it less preparation of what Toledo does and more about what you can do as opposed to a typical week?
You do have to game plan around what they do, and so obviously that does enter into it. Yesterday we did not show the film to the players. Asked them to show it to themselves, and we came in and went right to work on Toledo. So I didn't sit down and go through the game film with the staff. They didn't go through the game film with the players, and so obviously that's huge. But when you're cut short like that, you can't dwell too much on what just happened. You've got to move forward right away.
Coach, how much of an effect does it have on the guys? Just they're in the middle of classes, they're in the middle of just the general week of what they normally do. How does that affect them physically and I guess mentally too?
Well, if you're talking about playing midweek MAC games, basically, is that what you're asking about? That's something that we're conditioned to, and we know really as a staff how to adjust to it. I think everybody in the MAC does, and players, the majority of the players were here the last couple years, and so they know what midweek games are about, and so they kind of lead the way on how you need to respond physically, emotionally, mentally to a midweek game. There's some adjustments in academics, making sure that you get things done early, making sure you take work with you on the road. If you're traveling, when you're at home, you don't miss any classes. You go through classes even on the day of the game, and so there's adjustments that need to be made. We're not the only conference that plays midweek, and but it's what it is, and there's some money involved, and certainly there's your ability to showcase your football team, your conference.
Coach, how do you plan to stop a quarterback like Logan Woodside, who's had, over 2,200 yards for passing and over 28 touchdowns?
Well, that'll be difficult. Just have to make sure that we're playing very sound defense and that we're playing fast defense, because they can beat you through the air as well as on the ground. I think they're averaging over 200 yards on the ground, so it's kind of a pick your poison kind of thing. And I think he leads the country maybe in passing efficiency. So obviously they have it gone on both ends, and that is very, very difficult to control a team like that when they have both of it going and they have the kind of talent that they got. So it's a real challenge for us. I think a challenge on both ends. One, try to keep the ball. Try to have long drives as much as possible. And try to make sure that you don't give them any quick scores, that they need to earn everything that they get. Play really good on special teams. Try to establish field position. Don't give them a short field, and with their running game and passing game, let them go the short field on you. So a lot of things that you try to do, and they sound good when you talk about them, but implementing them is sometimes another story. But our guys will be ready to go.
Also, going back to Quinn and Maxwell, how much of a hold do you believe that he has on the offense, like as a whole, just in terms of calling out plays, making certain reads, things like that?
He's very good. He's beyond where you'd hope he'd be as a redshirt freshman.
What has allowed Toledo to basically not look like a team that underwent a coaching change in the offseason? What kinds of things have helped them bridge that gap?
Talent in the program. They've got really good players, and they've got depth at several positions. So that's huge whenever you take over a program. Now that staff's doing a really good job, but if you're gonna have the kind of success they're having, you got to have some people running around that can make plays for you.
Does Dorian Brown need more carries week to week? He's been downright sensational with 12 to 14 carries last two games. Is there talk about trying to make things a little more one back friendly, I guess, or one option friendly in the backfield with him?
Well, two backs or one back doesn't make a difference in
Who gets the carries?
In terms of the carries necessarily. You can build it around either the back if it's a two-back set, but probably right. But in all honesty, when AJ was running back there and was running really well, when Malik was running really well, and when Poppy's in there running really well, they've all those backs have shown philosophies of really, really being good. Now Dorian has been able to play through some injuries, and he missed some playing time, obviously, and so with the way it's been with our running backs, guys have had to step up, and when it's their turn, they've had to really respond, and Dorian has done a great job of that, especially this past game. Very powerful, strong runner, guy that moves piles and gets the extra yards, and I think he's starting to hit the hole with more and more confidence now, and his paths are good, and there's a lot of little things timing-wise that go into whether you are a really good running back or whether you're just okay, and his timing on things, I think, is getting much, much better, and obviously if he keeps performing, or all the backs keep performing at a really high level, and we're blocking and not stalemated up front, we'd like to give our running backs more carries.
Coach, what's the plan to stop Kareem Hunt? He's one of the better running backs that you guys are going to play this year. So just what's the plan right now, just to try and slow him down?
Well, again, they're not one-dimensional, so it's tough to devise a game plan that's going to encompass it all, and you're just going to stop them. I think you need to hope you control them a little bit, both in the ground game and in the passing game. And, our defense has shown the ability to play great defense. But we're going to have to be on top of our game in terms of our pass defense. I don't think there's any question about it. Some teams have really tried to steer away from running the ball a lot against us. Now, obviously Kent didn't because of the situation they were in at quarterback, but there have been teams that have gone more and more to the passing game against us. So we just got to make sure we continue to work at a level that's not going to allow them to get the ground game going. Now, they've been able to get the ground game going against basically everybody they've played. So that's a huge task right at hand right there. But it's the way you start off by trying to stop the ground game and then be solid on what you're doing. Try to put some pressure on the quarterback and hope that you can slow down an offense like theirs to a point where you can get enough points on the board to win the game.
In terms of morale, how important was it to get that stop late in the game defensively? Defense was on the field a lot in the second half, but to start in the 11-yard line and still keep them out of the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, I guess, a good way to go into this upcoming week as opposed to giving up a late score?
Yeah, and certainly a late score there would have made it difficult to win the game. Not impossible by any stretch, but it wouldn't have been easy. And so that definitely is a morale booster for us to, number one, win the game, because we knew it was going to be a physical game going in. And then number two, to have your team and be put on the line like that, defense be put on the line like that, and to respond in that manner, I think is certainly a confidence boost for our defensive team. Although they're a group that believes in themselves, they've gotten ready and played hard every game. So I think regardless of that situation, they would approach this game the same, and they'd have been ready to go at the same level. It's been an amazing group that way. They just prepare to play every week, and that's been the fun part of coaching these guys.
Coach, who's going to be monitoring kind of throughout the game? Cody Thompson. He's averaging 23 yards a reception and has over 800 yards and 9 touchdowns on the season. If there was one guy in your secondary you'd kind of want to be shadowing him, who would it be?
Yeah, well, it's difficult to do that.
Yeah.
Because obviously they don't just line them up at one spot.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have to use a variety of coverages to try to stop their passing game. And in saying that, you've got to be ready to, if they're hurting you on the deep ball, you got to be ready to help your corners. If teams aren't hurting you with the deep ball but are nickel and diming you to death, then your plan's got to change a little bit. So you need to be complicated enough that you're able to make those adjustments and yet not be too complicated to where you're having breakdowns in the secondary. And I hope that's where we're at. I think that's where we're at. And we've had to use a number of corners, throughout the course of the season, and safeties as well. Moving Kyle into corner, I think, was a huge benefit to us. We'd like to have had Randy continue to play for us, but that was not in the cards. And but our other guys are getting better and better, so we just need to have some guys step up and play at the top of their game and call a good defensive game and be ready to use coverages to slow them down when they're hurting you with something, and get a pass rush.
Yeah, you haven't had trouble with that.
Well, when you get them, that makes you want to get them all the time, and you just can't, you know, can't put pressure on a quarterback all the time. And so there's going to be times when, you know, it's just going to have to be linebacker drops, and it's going to have to be people playing man and just covering man to man, and everybody functioning as a unit.